All right, let's get into it. You know, when we think about the UK's House of Lords, it's easy to see it as this ancient, unchangeable institution. Something we debate, sure, but never really change. But what if we flip that on its head? What if we treated it less like a piece of history and more like a modern design challenge? That's the blueprint we're going to explore today.
So let's just start with a thought experiment. Seriously, forget all the history, all the tradition, just for a second. If someone handed you a totally blank sheet of paper and said, design a second chamber for the world we live in right now, what would you actually create? That question right there is the key to looking at this whole debate in a completely new light.
And look, this isn't just some academic exercise. The need for a new blueprint is very, very real. It's being driven by some serious modern pressures that are pushing this whole issue right onto the table, whether we like it or not. So let's break down what those are. First off, the whole idea of a job for life in politics, it just feels a bit strange in the 21st century, doesn't it? I mean, we live in a world of fixed terms and accountability. So a lifetime seat in Parliament is a huge outlier, and it's getting tougher and tougher to defend. Then there's the way people get there in the first place. For most of us looking from the outside, the appointments process can feel like a total black box. It's this mysterious system that often looks more like it's about political favors than finding the best people, which makes it really hard to understand, let alone trust.
And finally, you've got this really practical nuts and bolts problem. How do you justify a system where members can show up, claim their allowance, but aren't actually required to, do anything, to really participate in a meaningful way? That's a really tough look to defend.
So you put all these pressures together, and they are already forcing change. We're seeing these little nudges and tweaks, trying to make the Lords smaller, more modern. So the question isn't really if the Lords is going to change. The real question is whether all these little fixes are actually adding up to a smart, coherent plan.
Now, whenever this whole subject comes up, the debate almost always gets boiled down to one simple choice. But here's the thing. The real design options are so much broader and honestly a lot more interesting than that simple either-or argument suggests.
You know the drill, right? It's the classic showdown. On one side, you've got an appointed chamber. It's full of independent experts, which sounds great, but it has basically zero democratic mandate. And on the other side, an elected chamber that's got all the democratic legitimacy in the world, but you risk it just becoming a political copy of the House of Commons, leading to total gridlock.
But the real menu of options goes way beyond that. Sure, you've got the all-or-nothing models, but there are also mixed or hybrid chambers that try to get the best of both worlds. And then, of course, there's the default option. Just keep tinkering. The path of incremental reform, which, well, it avoids a huge political battle, but it also avoids making a clear decision.
And this brings us to what is maybe the single most important idea in this whole conversation. Every single one of these options, no matter which one you're drawn to, comes with a price tag. There is no perfect, clean solution here. There are only trade-offs.
This quote really just nails the dilemma. You can pick any reform you want, it'll fix a big problem, like the lack of legitimacy, but it's guaranteed to create a brand new tension somewhere else, like political gridlock. So the design challenge isn't about finding a perfect model. It's about accepting that a perfect model simply doesn't exist.
Okay, let's walk through a quick example of how this works. Say you go for it. You make the chamber fully elected. Fantastic. The problem of democratic legitimacy? Poof. Gone. Solved instantly. But what's the trade-off? You've just created a powerful new rival to the House of Commons, and you're risking political paralysis. See? You haven't gotten rid of problems, you've just swapped one for another.
So, what this all means is that for years, we've basically been asking the wrong question. The debate shouldn't be, do we need reform? The real, honest question we need to ask is this: which set of trade-offs are we actually willing to accept? Which new collection of problems are we as a country prepared to live with? So how on earth do you make a difficult choice like that any easier? Well, one really interesting idea is to simplify the mission. Right now, we ask the Lords to do a lot. Be our ethical guide, our keeper of institutional memory, our house of experts. What if other, more specialized bodies took on some of those jobs? If you streamline the Lord's core purpose, the design choice suddenly becomes a whole lot clearer.
And that brings us full circle, right back to our design challenge. Because once you strip away all those other jobs, the core decision really snaps into focus. This isn't about tradition versus modernity. The fundamental design question, the one we really need to answer, is about the recipe. What is the perfect mix of democratic legitimacy, political independence, and real expertise? Getting that blend right, Now that's the blueprint for the future.